So this is the most important domain in CCSP, and it starts with the data lifecycle. It is very important to understand what are the different phases in the data lifecycle. For example, everything starts with creating the data. If you're working in Excel file, just a small example, you will open the Excel file and you will write something on it, right? So you're creating something, you're creating the data, right? So that's called a create phase. You generate some kind of content. And why we need to understand these phases? Because when we understand create, we also can relate what are the controls we have to apply. For example, when I'm creating any file in PowerPoint or Excel or somewhere else, at the time it is very important to put the sensitivity label. Sensitivity, like in every company, there might be different sensitivity labels like highly confidential, public, internal, like that.
Data typing, right? Sensitivity, high sensitivity.
Data labeling, you can say. You're labeling the data.
Okay.
Yeah. So you decide at that time because you are the data owner. You know that what is the classification level for data, that data. For example, if I am doing my personal work on official laptop, that is not highly confidential. That can be public and you can share it to you internally. But if you're only talking about the company's data, and in that we have different levels of classification, you need to have some kind of policy in the company that can guide you. Okay, if you're working on the contracts, maybe that is highly confidential, and then you can give the label as a highly confidential. Okay.
Yes.
If I show you that, yeah, let me show you. So you can see here, there is an option of sensitivity label. So here I can put the sensitivity label public, internal, or confidential. So that's what I'm talking. And if I do not give any label, if I remove label, then see, your organization requires you to put the label. I cannot save the file. So the first thing that I need to do is to give the labels in the create phase. So that is the only thing we need to remember. If there is a question, okay, at what phase you have to give the labels, sensitivity labels, then you say, okay, when you create, the same time you have to give the labels. The second thing is when we create, we also store. So store comes simultaneously with create. For example, if you write something and you have to do Control S, right? And if you will not save it, and if you restart, your data is lost. So store comes simultaneously. And now we need to know, okay, what are the things that I need to put, what kind of controls I need to put when I'm storing the data. You need to put access control, because if you store, you want maybe somebody to access that data. May not be in your laptop. For example, if I store in my laptop, ACL is not a best example for that. But just take an example, you are using shared drive, or you are using one shared folder in Confluence, and there you have created a page, and you, of course, it is automatically stored there when you just create it. You have the option who can see that page. So you can set it, either you only can see that, or you can set that maybe your team can see that. So ACL comes immediately when you store. You also have encryption option when you store that. If you will go to AWS and you will see S3 bucket or any another storage, there is an option that you, whenever you create bucket, you also have option of checking the encryption. Sometimes it is by default. So encryption also comes there, and monitoring and logging should always be there. So we know what are the controls here: monitoring, logging, ACL, and encryption. Then there is a use case. There can be the phases in the Google where use is after share or share is after use. It doesn't matter. We don't need to remember the order. We need to remember the purpose, the controls. Share can be before, like for example, when you store, you want to share with somebody, and when you share, then he can use, right? So it can
And
be
while sharing, we can give
debatable.
the controls accordingly,
Yeah,
right? And that person can edit, that person can contribute, can,
indeed.
okay, whatever that, okay, I got it.
Correct. So you can share it first and then person can use, but you can also turn the table, you can say, okay, I myself want to use it, so that's why use is first. So we don't have to debate on that. What is order? The thing is, there is a use phase, which means somebody has to view the data. Somebody has to maybe process it, but do not have to edit it. If you shared with somebody and he wants to edit or modify the data, as soon as he click on edit and put some value, it again go to the create phase. So he is putting some value, and then he control as, then it goes to store, and then maybe some another phase, share or use. He want to share with somebody, or maybe he himself keep on going from use to create, create to use. Okay. Another question is, what are the controls that we need to put into the use? Use is most vulnerable phase. Why that is vulnerable? For example, you have shared me a link of a PDF file which is stored in a SharePoint, and your SharePoint is well protected with all kind of access list, but I'm accessing the link that you have shared in my laptop, and my laptop does not have antivirus, right? So I can download that file, or there are other methods. Even you disable download in SharePoint, I can still download it. There are ways to do that. That's why use phase is very vulnerable, because you never know where the person is going to use it, what is his location. Okay. So what we do in the use phase, we apply the controls like DLP. That is also in use and share.
Data leak protection.
Data leak
Leakage
prevention,
protection.
or
Yeah.
data loss prevention. And then comes the share. So like if you have to share with somebody, we have DLP, like DLP prevent you to share with unauthorized users. If you're working on a tender, or you're working on the trade secret, not everyone want to see the trade secret, maybe 2 or 3 people. So we can, with the help of DLP, we can set a control, only 2, 3 people want to access that. So share use should be only with the people we define. So DLP is most important here. IRM is also important here, but we will discuss IRM later. So yeah, these are the controls that you have to apply. And then we have the option of archive. Archive is when the data leave its active state. You don't need to really use the data most frequently, like maybe once in a year or once in a 5 year, whenever there is a use case. Why do we need to archive the data? Sometimes there are compliance requirements. For example, your NIST or your backup strategy is saying that you have to retain the logs for 90 days or maybe 1 year. But for troubleshooting purpose, maybe engineer says 1 month logs are enough. Active storage is very costly. Archival storage is not that costly. So you can say, okay, we take 1 TB for active log storage, and then we archive the logs for 1 year because our compliance requirement is there. There's one more thing we need to understand when we discuss about archive. Maybe there is a requirement to archive for 15 years. Just take an example of tapes, tape drive. If you store the data in tapes for 15 years from today, we need to also consider after 15 years, would there be a technology to use that data back? Or maybe there would not be any technology, like we cannot, like floppy disk. I don't know if there is a technology we can still read the floppy disk, right? It would be very challenging. And maybe, I don't know, there are people who can, with the help of that device, retrieve the data. So skills would also disappear, I believe. The last important phase is destroy. Destroy is like when there is no read of data, when even the compliance requirement has gone, like you have passed the cycle of 15 years or 1 year, you have to destroy the data. You can, of course, do it automatically. But we have to make sure when our data is with cloud service provider, even cloud service provider should not be able to access our data. In the end, the data is somewhere in the hardware, and the hardware we use is from the cloud service provider, right?
Service provider. Yes. Yeah.
So their employees can still access our data. That's what we think, right? Somehow they can access our data. If
Yes.
if they encrypt our data, the key is with them. So the best method to destroy is crypto erasing. I don't know if you heard about crypto erasing.
I haven't heard about crypto raising. I heard about crypto.
Crypto shredding, and this is also called crypto shredding, is like you, of course, you first of all encrypt the data with the key, and then you also encrypt the key, and then you delete the key and also the data, and then there is no way to go back and retrieve the data. So once you are very sure that you don't need the data, then you should use crypto shredding. Because why we need another key to encrypt the key is encryption is two-way function. Encryption, the data which you encrypted, even with a strong key, that can be decrypted if somebody get our key, right? So the most
Yes.
important thing is to protect your key. And you can only protect your key by encrypting the key itself, right? And then you have
Yes.
another key which you use to encrypt your key. So you have to delete that key which you used to encrypt the original key. One of the most important thing, I will not say only thing, one of the most important thing that you have to consider. Start your journey with that. So the first question that you have to ask to them, okay, you're doing migration. We need to understand the locations. Okay, where is our data? So maybe you are going from on-prem to cloud. So they say, okay, our data is in on-prem. And then you say, okay, because migration will take a time, so you have to move from on-prem to cloud. So what is the second location? Cloud. And then you can ask, okay, what kind of cloud? AWS, Azure, and then yeah, you come to know a little bit more, a little bit more. And then the second thing that you need to know, first, of course, you just write down what are the different locations involved. You also need to ask them, okay, when the data is in the cloud, who is going to access that? That will be actors. And from where the actors are going to access, maybe they have to come to the office if it is bank, it's very strict, or maybe they can do work from home and they can use their laptop. There are two things like location and access. So I will cover both of them in one explanation. Access is like who can access the data. Like this data, if it is in on-prem or if it is in cloud, doesn't matter when it is going to migrate to the cloud. There would be somebody who need to have access to do this migration. So who are the possible actors? We use this term. Who are the allowed actors
Okay.
who can access our data? When it is on-prem, when it is in the cloud, or maybe they need their laptop. Okay, how well secure their laptop is, who is providing their laptop, is it company's provided laptop or is their own laptop, and does their laptop have antivirus? So we need to understand these things to understand further what kind of controls we need. Controls, there are three mainly: preventive, detective, and corrective controls. There are also managerial controls, of course, but these are most important that we need to understand. Any question in that?
No, no, this is clear. This is clear.
Understood, right? So when you know,
Yes.
okay, location, because the problem with the data is it is very portable. It moves swiftly. If you share something with somebody, he can download it in his laptop. So data can go into different location, inside to outside, on-prem to cloud very swiftly. So it is very important for us to understand what are the different locations. Once we know that, we need to know, okay, who is going to access my data and how they are going to access my data, like what are the devices they are using. Once we know that, there is a third thing that we should ask them. Okay, what are the functions you are going to perform on the data? For example, if you put everything on the cloud, maybe we are using S3 bucket, maybe it's archival data. We need to ask, okay, do you only want to view or access data, or you also want to copy the data? If they say, yeah, we need to copy or transfer the data, okay, to whom you want to transfer the data? And then they will say, okay, we have three more partners. Then our security questions increase. Okay, what are those partners? Have we done security assessment for those partners? Got it? So this
Yes.
helps,
Yes.
function helps you to generate more questions, to assess more questions. And then second question is process, update the data. Okay, what kind of process we are doing? Then they say, okay, we have another SaaS application. We need to send the data there. Okay, how is the integration? API integration is there. Okay, what kind of authentication we are using for that? So then you ask this kind of question, okay, if you're going to update the data, is it automatically being updated or there is a human element involved in that to process the data? Then the third
Thank
element of the function is store. Uh, no matter if you have to access the data or process the data, when we were discussing the life cycle, as soon as you create the data, it has to be stored somewhere, right? In a file, in
you.
database, somewhere. Now the question is, okay, we have to store the data, and what are the different kind of storage we have? So we discuss the location, we discuss access, we discuss actors, we discuss function, these all things we discuss. Now we need to discuss, okay, where I can store the data, because different locations. So here we will only talk about the cloud location, and in cloud, okay, the storage, what are the different kind of storage we have? One is file storage, which is very easy because we are working on it daily. We store our files, we create a folder and put our files in that. We create Word, Excel files. When it comes to cloud, I only put one example from Amazon. They have elastic file system. But in exam, this question will not come, okay, what kind of file is there in Amazon? You just need to know file store is a kind of storage where you store your data in files. It's the same as we do store our data in the files in the OneDrive. You create a folder, you create a file. That is the
Okay.
file storage. Block storage and object storage are a little bit complex to understand, but they are very important. How you can understand that? The first thing is what kind of data you have to select that, right? You have to select either block storage or object storage as part of consultant. If you are doing some kind of consultation, they will ask you, okay, suggest us where should we store our data, okay? And then you will ask, okay, what kind of data we are talking about? They will say, okay, we are talking about videos and photos. From that, you need to understand, okay, videos and photos are unstructured data or structured data. Now the question comes, okay, what is structured data and what is unstructured data? Unstructured data is there is no structure, of course. It's like the easy way to understand. I have 1,000 photos and videos in one folder. And if I ask you just find out the photo 5 years back in Amsterdam when you were wearing a yellow t-shirt, how easy would it be for you to find? It would be very difficult, right? Because
Yes.
there is no structure. It's just you dumped something. It's like
All the
same,
things, right?
yeah, you dumped everything in one place. It's like you have a bucket and you put all your clothes in the bucket. And then I ask you, can you take out the yellow shirt? So you need to really search from all the clothes and find out the yellow shirt, right? That's a unstructured data, and for that we use object storage. For every object, we give metadata and ID. So with the help of metadata and ID, we find that if you will see images, they always have ID, and you can also find the metadata with that. With these two values, they do search. With this explanation, I think it would be very clear that this is slow because yeah, you have to take time to search. Okay, S3 bucket is yeah, this is mainly used for the unstructured data. Like you have a lot of data and you want to dump your data there. We mainly use unstructured data when we want to use once in a while, and it is cheaper actually, and there is a use case. It's not like you can block storage is faster actually. Why it is faster, I will explain you. Object storage is slower. You already know why it is slower. Let me explain you block storage and then we will discuss about the use case. Block storage is, of course, when you have structured data, you use block storage. Now we need to understand what is structured data. It's like the data in the table, rows and columns. I asked you to find a photo 5 years back in the Amsterdam wearing a yellow
Yes.
t-shirt, right? So
Yeah.
if I create a column, year column, and then I create another column with the places, and then I create a column with the maybe cloth type, shirt, pant, and then color, and you just make a filter, how easy would it be to find that, right? Just you
Yes.
just apply the filter and find out. That's the structured data. You have some kind of structure. So it means it is faster. In
Yes.
the block storage, we have some kind of blocks like this. We have block and we store the data in the blocks. So if you have to fetch any data, they just call the block, retrieve the data from the block, and you get your file. We have elastic block storage, EBS in the cloud. Now the question was, okay, scenarios, when to use what? That is most important, right? So if you have a requirement where you have to dump all the videos and file, and once in a while you have to access that. The same we have we keep on taking pictures, but we have to really see the pictures. Then you can use object storage. For example, if you're working on Netflix, they have a lot of videos that they never want to use them, but maybe sometime they want to improve the quality and they want to retrieve the file, then they can access that. So it means this also have another point that if I don't want to use that, why I have to give a lot of money, right? So there should be cheap storage that I put everything there. So there was a little bit comparison I did. I have already explained that. Let's read it. Block storage is for structured data. It's fast and it stores data in blocks, but it is expensive. This is opposite. This is unstructured data. It is slow. We understood like it's very hard to retrieve the data. There is a metadata for every object. It is cheaper. Block storage is faster and more efficient than object storage because it can access data directly from the blocks without needing to read the metadata. So it does from the entire object. But here it needs to search from the entire object. It needs to search the metadata. So it takes time here. But in the block storage, we have blocks. So yeah, it is very easy for it to retrieve the data. Yeah, that's I think enough. Then we have, since we are discussing the storage, there's a concept of data dispersion. It's like you are storing your data in different location, different geographical location, but of course in that there are data center where you are storing. Another question that I was having when I read this data dispersion terminology, who is going to use this? Who do I, as if I am an administrator, do I need to enable that? Answer for that is we don't even see this option. Cloud service provider do it on the background. So
okay, I mean they are doing it because okay, maybe there is one
they're
data
using it for
center.
high availability.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
like
if in case of some emergency happens in that data center, they might going to have it a redundant backup ready in maybe Antarctica or somewhere,
do
so
you
that all the
do you,
things.
yeah, do you know about RAID? RAID, have you heard?
Yes,
Like
I know. Yes, I know about the rate. Yes.
it is exactly, it can be compared with the RAID. Like your one bit is going to
Okay.
one disk, another to another one, same as here. So
Okay.
if you, and every data bit is being encrypted for security reasons. And if you lose, I mean, not we, if due to some reason we lose some part of data, whole file can still be retrievable, can put back together. That's the good thing about data dispersion.
Okay. And end of the day, I mean, they are the ones who are responsible for, and they are the ones who are managing in the backend.
Yeah, they do that. We have
Okay.
also we do get 99.5% of the availability uptime. There are other things that we can discuss about high availability, but yeah, let's not discuss this now. This is data dispersion is being taken care by the cloud provider. Okay, CSP.
Okay.
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 If you get a question like, okay, what is the technique being used where the data is being spread over different data centers for the high availability purpose, then you know, okay, they are talking about data dispersion. Threats to the storage is unauthorized access. Again, I'm taking example, you have created S3 bucket and there are a lot of Netflix videos there now, and you're working in a Netflix, of course, and anybody can access that S3 bucket. It means somebody can delete it, right? So unauthorized access is the threat to the storage. So we need to think about identity and access management here. Then there is unauthorized provisioning. Unauthorized provisioning is anybody can install any kind of software. That's called shadow IT, means the software which are not approved by IT, and it can be installed. That's not a good thing because maybe there's a third party software they installed and there they are taking all the backup of your videos and then they're uploading it somewhere else. So that's another threat. Then non-compliance is another threat. Like if you're not complying, compliance says you to put encryption, and if you're not putting encryption and if the audit happens, then you can have some fines and suspension. It's like failure to secure because of the compliance. So that's also a threat if you're non-compliant. And jurisdictional issues, that's very important. If you got a SaaS application and they will be saying, okay, we do process the data in Europe, but who knows, they are taking the backup in USA, right? So you need to ask them, okay, where
Yes.
you are taking the backup? Because
Yeah, over here there is something similar to it. It's like all the cloud has to be here in this place and in this country. It shouldn't be
Mhm.
outside of this country.
Yeah, so see,
So
jurisdictional
this is
issues.
one of the,
Yeah,
yes.
so need, yeah, in that you need to ask the questions to them. Okay, data is not going outside, but what about the backup? You might be replicating, right? And we just discussed the
Yes.
data dispersion. Okay, where the data
This
dispersion
person,
is
right?
where are you taking any backup? They definitely SaaS provider do take the backup because they provide very high uptime. Then we can ask, okay, where you are backing up the backup and where maybe they're backing up the backup of backup. So we need to ask these questions. DOS, denial of service, if there is a website, front-end website, and of course that has a backend database connected to the application. And if your that DOS attack happened to that, then yeah, then there is a loss of availability. That is another attack. There is a data can be corrupted, data can be lost, it can be stolen, and malware, ransomware. I think you already know that can happen to the data. The best thing for most of the things is you always need to take your backup, your own backup. Store backup securely somewhere else, not like in the same place. So ransomware should not hit your backup as well. So backup should be stored
Yes.
somewhere else. And then improper disposal, if you're not doing proper disposal of data, if you're not deleting the data and it is being accessed by this, there's always a risk like CSP, there people working there can access your data. So always use strong method like crypto shredding we just discussed to dispose your data, to
Yes.
delete your data. Now we know there are threats that we need to understand, okay, what are the security technologies that we can use or security measures, I should say, we should use to protect our data. There are three major categories. One is encryption, and then there is a DLP we were discussing in the start. And then there is obfuscation, anonymization, tokenization, masking. This is very interesting. Encryption, symmetric encryption is maybe you can remember with S, there is a single shared key, S. Okay, means
Okay.
there's only one key. Sorry.
Yeah, no, no, I got it. It's a good point now.
Yeah, I just
S
make this
from
kind of
single.
relation
Yeah,
actually.
this is good.
Yeah, I make these kind of
Yeah.
relation to remember. So there's only one single shared key. Means single key is there to encrypt and decrypt. If there is a single key, of course you need to share it, right? If there are two keys, then it
Yes.
makes different sense. But if it is single key, it should be with another person also. Because why we are using encryption? Because we want to share the data with somebody. If you never want to share the data with somebody, then yeah, you can use it by yourself unencrypted. I mean, that's also not the best option because somebody can steal your credential and use it, but it makes less sense. But if you have to share the data with somebody, there should be a data uh, in motion encryption applied. So data should be encrypted and then transferred over, yeah, public or internal as well, media. Symmetric encryption is faster because there is only one key used to encrypt and decrypt the data. But the problem is key distribution. If you have to distribute the key, so suppose I have to share something with you over the internet and I encrypted it with symmetric key and now you have to decrypt it to read it, right? Otherwise, it's no use for you. And if I give you the
Yes. For
key,
example, we shared one, yeah, one, let's say a PDF with our client,
mhm.
and it's a symmetric encryption, and even that person needs to open it. They need this key. So maybe that person can misplace it or give it to someone else. So it will be a challenge, right?
The problem is that person should have the key, but the problem is maybe there is somebody in man in middle who also get the key because you have to share it, right? So that's the challenge. So to share symmetric key, we use asymmetric key. That's the only purpose. If somebody asks you if there is a data, and you have to encrypt it, what key you use. So we say we use symmetric key for that because we need faster key. And if we have to encrypt the key, then we use asymmetric key. Asymmetric, you have two keys. One key is used for encrypting, another key is used for decrypting. So public key can encrypt the data, private key can decrypt the data. But you don't need to remember that public key will always encrypt and private key will always decrypt. Public key can also decrypt. So just only remember one key can encrypt or decrypt. If one key encrypt, another key will decrypt. Okay?
Okay, okay. This is also okay. I got it.
Yeah, okay. So let's keep it simple. Now we understand, okay, key. We discuss a lot of stuff with the key. Okay, there is a key data is encrypted with the key. We use different encryption method. And if suppose there is an attacker and he get the data, and we have used a modern crypto method, for example, AES and 128-bit encryption or 256-bit encryption, then if the attacker does not have a key, he needs 1,000 to million years to break that, considering today's technology we do have. Even if he has quantum computing, which is very fast, he still needs 6 months as per the calculations. 6 months is a great time, I would say. So it is
Yes.
very secure. But just consider if he get the key, it would be within milliseconds he can access the data, right? So the most important thing is the key management. You need to securely manage the key. Protection of the key is most important here. Okay. So if somebody asks you the key classification, it should be highly sensitive. Whatever is the top sensitivity level, that should be applied to the key. And we, do you have any question?
No, no, this is clear.
Okay.
The
So
key.
the,
Okay.
yeah, so the most important topic here is how to protect the key. If we rephrase what we have studied, so just consider yourself in a call with the vendor and you asked him certain questions about, the first was location. Okay, where is my data? Is it on-prem, on cloud? Okay, and what are the possible actors who is going to access my data? Right, that was the second question. What are the functions on the data? So you ask these questions, and then we understood, okay, there are threats to our data, so we need to protect our data. We need to apply certain measures, and the first measure was encryption. I'm just telling the story, right? And
Yes.
encryption, and it's really good to apply the encryption. Good, my data is safe, but my key can be stolen. My key should be protected. So now we are in the point, okay, protection of the keys. You as a consultant don't need to protect, but maybe there is the guy who is engineer who is working in the AWS, and with him now you need to ask this question. Okay, the first thing is we should use strong key. So you can ask him what is the encryption technique we are using, AES, 128 or 256. Suppose he's using 120, sorry, 256. Strong enough. Then we can ask him, your key should be randomly generated after maybe 3 days. Okay, so that we need to
Okay.
check because key can compromise, right? And if it
Yes.
is shared, if the attacker got access, it should not be usable.
Yeah.
The second thing we can ask,
So then in the back end, I mean, we should be thinking in that way. I mean, even if they have a quantum computer with them, okay, so every 3 days, if it is changing, then even if even if they have it, they will not be able to break it.
it
Okay,
takes
I got it.
still six
Yeah,
months
keep
as per
going.
the calculations. If you have quantum computing, I think it's a good enough time. Yeah. But there are the developers, the researchers, I should say, they are already working on the quantum encryption. So if there is quantum computing and quantum encryption also comes, then it would be difficult to break. So yeah, that's again a separate topic. Let's discuss about protection of key. So you asked him, okay, he told you he's using AES 256. Okay, strong enough. And we also randomly generate the key. And then we ask, okay, another question is store key in secure manner. So there are two ways. to use the key. If you generate S3 bucket, there is an option to encrypt. You can use the key which is stored by the CSP, cloud service provider. But you can also use your own self-created keys. The problem with self-created keys is you need to store your key somewhere. You need key wallet. There are like KMS service in AWS. You need to take that service. And then you need to put very strong IAM control, identity and access management, like who can access your key. Right now we are discussing this point, using the key securely. So there should be really strong access control. Not everyone should be able to access. Mostly it is root users should be able to access your key vault. Then
So
question.
just a question, and the key would be like in a plain text, or it's going to be a hash or something, or like
Uh,
example, I have one physical crypto wallet.
mhm.
So, but what is it like?
HSM?
It's random.
What is the
Mm,
crypto word? HSM or?
No, there is one company who is offering this crypto wallet, so I got one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like 16 different words,
Mm-hmm.
and you should put those 16 words or 20 words in that sequence, then only you will be able to get inside that wallet.
Okay,
So
mnemonics.
I feel,
Mnemonics you are talking about, right? You put the mnemonics and then you generate, right? The key like
yes,
that.
yes,
Okay. I think that's
yeah.
also an interesting point. Maybe I will make my note and I will explain that. I will show you something in next session. Okay. Let's keep it high level today, theoretical, and then I will show you. I will create some kind of screenshot where we can understand, okay, also the previous option, you can also use CSP key, but you can also use self key. I will take that and also this one. Okay. And if we continue using key securely, yeah, and then sharing the key. It is not common that you share the key. Key is in the key vault, and there are people who can access the key vault and they can, yeah, use them as per the use case. But if there is a requirement to share the key, we already discussed asymmetric. We should use asymmetric encryption algorithm to share the key.
Okay, okay.
Another point is your key can be lost. So it's like you can make a copy of the key and you can keep somewhere. That's called a key escrow. It's like I have my house and I have three key, one with my wife, one with me, and one I have given to somebody, my trustworthy person. If we both lost the key, then I can ask him,
Yes,
okay,
yes,
that's the key escrow.
yeah.
Then archive key. If there is key is no longer needed for routine use, you can archive the key for future use. If you will see some wallet like NordVPN, no, sorry, Nord Pass and Keep Pass, they have the option. You go to your password, right click archive. So you don't need them, but maybe in future you may want to use them. That's the archive. WhatsApp also has archive option, right? So you archive the chat.
Yes,
Yeah, you don't want to delete
yes.
it for future reference. That's the archive. Then we have revocation. Revocation is if your key is compromised, you want to revoke it back, so it cannot be used. And then you also need to destroy that. And that's also related because the key is no longer needed or it is compromised. Better to destroy that. There are different encryption level, I would say, not types. Like if you are using object storage or yeah, storage level, there are storage level encryption, there is object level encryption. So if you use S3 bucket, there is an option that you can enable the encryption. This key with CSP, and this also keys with the CSP, but there is an option that you can select that I want to self-manage the key. There is always a point or the argument that maybe self-signed key is good, but there is a challenge that you need to securely manage the wallet. So just understand if is it really necessary to do self-managed key? If it is not, let it be CSP managed. But CSP managed, of course, their employees can see that is the risk. I mean, they do have some kind of agreement with you. They will not see that, but the risk is always there. You need to balance, you need to understand if the risk is so high, maybe you're working in a banking sector, then yeah, let's create our own key and secure that. Okay.
Okay.
And then there is I will take screenshot of these also to show you next time so you get some kind of feeling. Then we
Okay.
have file encryption. File, as you know, like Word file, Adobe file, there are some third-party applications which you can use and you can encrypt these files. So I think the best thing is ransomware virus that will encrypt all of your files, and then you have one key to decrypt them. I'm kidding. So just to compare the file
Yeah,
encryption.
in every, yeah, I mean, they are doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing. Your all the documents, everything is encrypted. And then we have two type more encryption, database level encryption. Database, you know, MySQL, you can encrypt even specific column. You can also encrypt whole table or entire database. Depends what is your need. So that,
Wow, this
sorry?
is something new for me. No, I mean, I thought like it should be like everything, but it's especially if you just want to do it specific things. This is something interesting.
Yeah, I
I
will
did
see
not
if
know
I can
this.
get something to show you practically. Let's see if I can get something. Okay, so I will make note of that also. Okay, so then there is application level, uh, in that data is encrypted prior being stored. So it is like if you have SaaS application, they will tell you if you want to, because in the SaaS application, uh, there are two things that you have to take care. Data is yours, so you feed the data, and identity and access management, who is going to access the data. There are two things in the SaaS. Rest of the things you don't need to worry. Maybe you also need to take the backup, yeah, because not every SaaS application to take the backup. So then you can consider three things. So since data is most important in that, and you have to protect the data either by taking backup or identity and access management control, SaaS application, they do give you an option that you can encrypt your data with your key. So that's called application level encryption. So you encrypt your data before even it is being stored. Okay. So
Okay.
there's a use case for that. So we covered encryption. DLP is is a smaller, but this one part is really bigger. I want to spend more time on that because I think these two topics may be mostly touched in other certifications or day to day, but this maybe you have not worked. So I will not discuss this today, but this I will discuss. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
There are three options: discovery, monitoring, and enforcement. There is this research which says that DLP implementation fails 33%. 33% of the cases it fails. Why it fails? Because there is no proper implementation. And why is that? Because there are some phases on the DLP implementation. People directly enforce it. They just buy a tool and just enable the DLP. Like you have CASBs, they have DLP functionality, then that you can use. And if you use that, what happens? DLP, if you will understand the definition of DLP, DLP is for uh, preventing the data to be sent to unauthorized people. So unauthorized people should not have access to our data. So we protect our data from being lost, right? But what happens when you enable DLP? Even authorized people are not able to access that. So that happens. And that makes people frustrated. And then escalation starts happening and this solution is pushed back. So this is really difficult solution to implement. So there is
They
a
have to
saying,
find a soft spot, how to implement, and no one should have any issues. I mean, perfectly.
I think there is a phases to do that. Don't go directly to enforcement. First of all, discover, check what is in your environment. Like, do you have some SSN passwords lying on the rest, right? So what you need to really protect. And then monitor ingress, egress traffic, see the behavior of people. Maybe you enable the DLP, but you do not enforce, means do not start blocking it. Do not start blocking, like people, let people share whatever they want to share with whomsoever they want to share, because they were already sharing before DLP. You just bought new tool and now immediately you want to block. don't go into very strict mode, and monitor the people. Most important thing with this is teach the people, guide the people, let them use proper classification. Tell them that don't share these documents because we are watching you. Okay. And when the percentage really increase, the maturity percentage, when people are really educated, then enable that. And then people know, okay, yeah, I did it mistakenly and it is blocked. So it takes time. Take your time. Don't implement in only just 2, 3 months. It could take 1 year time. So plan smartly. Okay. Data architecture, it can be implemented in 3 ways. Data in motion. That is motion. When we say in motion, the first thing comes in our mind is firewall, because firewall is gateway and that scan every data going in and out when the data is in motion. And if you worked with firewalls, they do have option of DLP. It's not very detailed. It's like very small, like maybe SSN number, credit card number, or maybe you can configure some regex. So, but you do have that option. Then there is data at rest. Like we have all our data stored in the storage. There, if you'll go to AWS, Azure, there is an option of DLP. So you can, yeah, use that. Then we have data in use. That is like I'm using my laptop, and in my laptop, if it is company's laptop, there will be some kind of client installed in my laptop, and that is really detailed DLP solution that has so many options. You can create policies, you can configure GDPR, you can do a lot of stuff with that data in use part. So that is the high level of DLP. We don't need to go into detail. And then we covered 2 things, encryption and DLP. And the last step is, of course, the this one, obfuscation and anonymity. That we will cover in next session.